to the mat, we're going to start laying flat on our back with knees bent, and our feet and our legs are going to be about sits bones distance apart, so just in line there on the inside of the pelvis, just a hair or so. And we're going to drop the rib cage down, allow the rotator cuff, the very top of the shoulder, and the cuff of the shoulder where it meets the arm, lift up off of the mat so you can set the rib cage and the whole rib cage shoulder girdle flat against your mat. Hands are going to rest on the hips, and we're going to tilt the hips back. We're going to feel that flexion, that stretch through the low back. As you slightly raise the tailbone, pubic bone up towards the ceiling, and then slow as you tilt right back to neutral, and tilt into that flexed spine position, drawing the abdominals to the back. We're finding that hollowing, that scooping of the abdominals, pulling from pubic bone all the way up that front line, through to the chest, to the sternum, and back to neutral. 2 more pelvic tilts just to warm up the hips, open and stretch the low back as you drop the rib cage down and in, letting the chest open and the collarbone spread wide. And last one. Let's add some flexion to the mid-back with our chest lifts. We'll interlace our fingers. Bring our hands back behind the head. Let the head fall back into your hands. And fold the elbows forward slightly so you can pull the rib cage down and in and feel the mid-back connected to the floor. On your next exhale, we're going to fold across the mid-ribs there at the bra line to lift the head, neck, and chest. We pause for a breath at the top before resetting back to the floor. Keep knitting the rib cage in. You're still working that exhale for the descent back to the mat. And next exhale, we fold and lift. Finding that nice deep fold there, right below the pecs at the base of the shoulder blades to draw the shoulders up off of the mat. We want to avoid pulling on the head and the neck, craning the head and the neck forward. So we keep the ear, the head stacked over the shoulder. And we have that nice deep fold there at the mid-ribs. On our next chest lift, we'll hold. Feel the head, the weight of your head drop back into your hands, supported by your arms. And we twist over onto that right shoulder blade. And we twist through and over to the left. A little pause at each rotation to begin with to incorporate that stretch into your movement. So as you start working into each repetition, we get a little bit more mobility, we get a little bit more movement through the mid-back. We're trying to twist and rotate right there at the mid-ribs, just below the shoulder blades. Keeping the distance between the chest, the hips, the same. No matter which side you're twisting and rotating to. One more each side. And slow to reset back to the floor. Arms are going to come nice and long down by your side. We're going to back our heels up a little closer to the hips. not touching. You still want to leave some space. The fingertips should not be able to really touch your heels, but you want to be fairly close to the hip. And we're going to move that ankle joint as we work into our pelvic curl, our shoulder bridge. On the exhale, we tilt the hips back, press through the feet, engage the legs, the hips, back extensors and abdominals are firing as we lift the hips up, sending the knees forward, as if we're shooting our knees forward towards the toes. And on that next exhale, we drop down through the mid-ribs. Nice and slow, rolling along the spine, piece by piece. Taking your time on the articulation. As you're moving the spine, you should feel a nice stretch along the thigh, maybe even around the knee, as you find that flexion, that hollowing through the abdominals, through the mid and low back before you lift, and sending the knees forward so you get that stretch across the front of the leg. Two more pelvic curls. Resetting back to a nice neutral spine, we'll float that right foot just up off of the mat, and we're going to slide that leg forward, lengthening and stretching the leg out nice and long. And then slow as you drive the heel back towards the hip, and we reach. Finding that full extension of the leg, being mindful that both hip bones are staying lined up. That as that right leg extends, it doesn't push or you don't pull that right hip out of place, out of alignment. Nice smooth glide and reach of that right leg, finding good extension out of the hip, still bracing through the abdominals and the back extensors as that leg is moving across the mat. And we hold that right leg out nice and long. And we're going to make clockwise circles. Small little clockwise circles. Moving and stirring the leg in the hip. And we switch directions, moving counterclockwise, pressing in through the back of that left leg to bring a little bit more stability. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bending that right knee, sliding the foot back in line with the sit bones, resetting the torso for a breath, and we float the left foot, extending and lengthening that left leg out. Nice and long. And slow as the knee bends, we draw the heel back towards the hip. And we reach. Reaching and lengthening that left leg out, stretching it out nice and long. One more, And then we'll add that hold. We reach and lengthen that left leg out. We're going to work a counterclockwise circle on the left first. The circle movement is not very big. Allowing the leg to move freely in the hip. And then we change our circle direction. Five, four, three, two, one. Bending that left knee, placing the foot flat to the mat. And we're going to bring our legs to tabletop position. Arms are going to come bent elbow down by the side of the rib cage. Fingertips and forearms are reaching up towards the ceiling. On our inhale, we're going to take our legs just a little bit over to the right. Just a tiny bit. We don't want to over twist. We're going to come back to center. And we're going to tip and twist over to the left. Just a little bit. Those smaller movements, that smaller rotation from side to side. And now start to make those rotations a little bit larger. Squeezing through inner thigh, pressing the legs together. And a little bit larger with that rotation. Bracing strong through the abdominals, engaging your back extensors as you twist through the mid-ribs, rocking onto each hip. One more each side. And we'll rest the feet down to the mat into a butterfly stretch. Soles of the feet together as the knees fall out to the side. Arms can open out to a T position, palms up towards the ceiling. Pull the rib cage down and in. Nice deep belly breaths. Last one. And slow to unwind. We'll bring our legs up to tabletop position, hands resting on either side of the knees. We'll fold and lift at the head, neck, and chest, moving into our single leg stretch. Right leg extends forward, out nice and long across the mat, and we draw it back. Switching to the other side, I'm trying to maintain a tabletop position with the opposite leg. Nice deep fold at the mid-ribs. Finding tabletop as you stretch the other leg farther and longer. Folding and lifting the chest just a little bit higher. One more each side. Knees pull into the chest, the head drops back to the mat. Roll the shoulders back and down, let the collarbone expand and open. And legs return to tabletop. Folding once again at the mid-ribs. We're moving into our double leg stretch. You can always modify, placing your hands behind your head or flat back to the mat. On the inhale, legs go forward, arms travel overhead, and arms circle around back to tabletop to the legs. Keeping the weight across the back of the hips. Trying not to let the hips tip forward as you send the legs forward nice and long. Last two. And knees hug in once again. We'll reach for the toes, bottom of the feet or back of the legs. Pull the knees apart. Let the collarbone spread wide, the chest open as we flatten the back to the mat, and we'll rock a little bit from hip to hip. And slow to unwind. Knees are bent, feet are flat to the mat, arms are going to travel almost overhead, only to the point that you can keep the rib cage drawn down and in. And on the exhale, the arms flow forward. We fold across the mid-ribs to lift the chest. And slow to reset. Reaching the arms out nice and long, keeping good engagement from the shoulder through to the fingertip. And again, nice deep fold at the mid-ribs to lift the chest high. Last one. Arms reach up nice and long overhead. The rib cage can flare a little bit. Letting the arms sink and drop for the floor, opening and stretching along the arm and the chest. Legs pull together, squeeze through knees and inner thighs, and legs tip over to the right. And back to center. Drawing the rib cage down, reaching longer overhead with the arms, the legs move left. The legs don't need to stay stacked. Back to center. One more each side. Last one to that left side. Resetting back to neutral, and arms come back down long by your side. We'll separate the feet sits bones distance apart. Right leg will come to tabletop and then extend straight up towards the ceiling, reaching the leg nice and long. We're going to inhale to lower that leg straight down towards the mat. Flex at the ankle and kick up. Feeling that stretch run up the back of the leg as you kick the leg back up towards the ceiling. Reaching the leg straighter and longer. Trying to keep the knee fully extended, even if that means you don't bring the leg as high as you had hoped. knee bends, placing the foot back to the mat. Reset your upper body and bring the left leg to tabletop, then straightening it towards the ceiling. On the inhale, we lower the leg. Flex at the ankle and lift. Reaching the legs straighter and longer, driving through the heel as you kick up, maintaining that long leg and that extension at the knee. Feel the stretch at the back of the lower leg all the way up to the hip. And left knee bends. We rest the foot back to the mat. Fingers interlace. We bring our hands behind the head to support the head and the neck. Draw the rib cage in, both front and back of the body. And on the exhale, we lift, hold that chest lift, and we bring legs to tabletop. Moving into our crisscross, we reach the right leg forward as the upper body twists to the left. And slow as you come back to center. Nice and smooth through that rotation, through that twist along the mid-ribs. One more each side. We come back to center, hug the knees in. And on the next breath with some momentum, we're going to curl up, float into that teaser prep position, roll the shoulders back, extend the spine. We sit nice and long, nice and tall, floating those legs, and when you're ready, arms and hands come off the legs. We hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Feet down into your butterfly stretch. We roll forward. Either flat back or round back. Allowing the knees to fall down towards the floor. And we curl up and reset. Feet and legs straighten. Mat width apart. Hinging at the ankle to draw the top of the foot back towards the shin. We want the legs nice and long, sitting up tall off of your sit bones. We reach the arms forward. Moving chin to chest, forward fold at the mid-ribs. We round forward. Stretching out over the legs. Taking hold of the feet if you can reach that far, and stretching and lengthening the body forward over the legs as you press the back of the knees down against the mat. Next exhale, curling back up, restacking the spine. I'm going to point the toes. Hips tilt back, we curl and roll down towards the floor. Piece by piece, we reach those arms nice and long up overhead. And arms flow forward. Bringing chin towards the chest as we fold deep at the mid-ribs, curling and rolling back up. And reaching forward out nice and long over the legs. Now flex at the ankle, pull the top of the foot back towards the shin. I'm going to walk out just a little bit, rocking up and off of each hip so I can be on my sit bones without the hips tucked under. Nice deep hinge at the ankle to draw the foot back to stretch the leg more. One more breath. And we curl up we restack, sitting up nice and tall, nice and long. Point those toes, tilt the hips back, and we curl back along the mat, right along the spine, all the way to the head. Reach the arms up overhead without overarching the back or flaring the ribs. Our arms flow forward, lifting the head, folding at the midribs, curling back up. And we roll and reach forward out over the legs. Flex at the ankle to draw the top of the foot back, and then I'm going to walk it out again. Onto the sit bones. Legs are straighter, reaching longer. Glide those shoulders down. And slow to restack. Sitting up nice and tall, nice and long. We tilt the hips back, curling and rolling back down along the mat. Reaching the arms nice and long, stretching long, and forward fold. We begin to lift. Curling up off of the mat, piece by piece, vertebra by vertebra. We stretch out nice and long over the legs. Walk it out. So you can stretch the top half of the hamstring without your hips tucked and pulled under. One more breath. And we slow to restack the spine, sitting up nice and tall. Legs are going to come together at the center of your mat. We're going to flex at the ankle, pull the toes and the top of the foot back. Make it more about the movement at the ankle than trying to flex at the top of the foot. Sitting up tall out of the sit bones, arms are going to come out to a T position, rotating hands and arms, palms up towards the ceiling. We're going to twist through the mid-ribs to the right for that double pulse for our seated spine twist supine. And we twist to the left. Sitting up nice and tall in the seated spine twist. Stretching the legs straighter, pressing the back of the knees down. Reaching the arms longer. One more each side. Arms come to the front, we fold and curl, reaching out nice and long over the legs. And we curl up and restack. Let's cross our right foot, right leg over the left. And we'll twist through the mid-ribs as we wrap that left arm around the right knee. We'll twist and look back over that right shoulder. And coming around back to center, we'll counter stretch, look back over that left shoulder. And center. Right leg straightens, left leg crosses right. Wrapping the right arm, we twist to the left. Looking back over that left shoulder, sinking that left hip down against the mat. Trying to stretch taller, sit longer, straightening that right leg more. And we unwind and counter stretch to the other side. And unwinding back to center. Let's lay on our left side for our sideline leg work. Bottom left leg is going to be bent. Head is resting on the arm. And your right hand is on the mat in front of your chest and your ribs. We're going to float that top right leg up off of the mat, and on the exhale, the right leg is going to lift. Reaching the leg nice and long out of the hip. Engaging the muscles up your back as well as in your abdominals as that leg is moving. One more. And then we're going to stack the legs right on top of each other in that side lying tabletop position. Left arm comes out to a T. Right arm comes over the top, palm to palm. We drop the head to the mat, and right arm reaches up. We twist back through the mid-ribs, looking back over that right arm, right shoulder. And slow as you unwind. Coming back to that sideline position. You're going to take your right hand, bring your hand behind your head, and twist once again through the mid-ribs. Trying to let that elbow drop down towards the floor. And we unwind back to center, straightening that right arm. We're back palm to palm. Right arm reaches up. We twist back. And unwinding back onto our left side. Left arm comes back underneath the head. Right arm, right hand in front of the chest. We'll straighten the top right leg, lengthening it out over the mat. Flexing at the ankle joint, we're going to kick the leg straight, coming forward with the leg, and then point the toe, reaching and extending the leg back, creating that hip extension without it traveling up into the low back. Flexing at the ankle, reaching the leg long. As you bring the leg forward, point the toe, extend and lengthen, straighten and reach back. And we come forward. And reach. One more. Reaching back, extending long. And we'll bend that top right knee, stack the legs once again. Let's pull our heels back in line with our tailbone. We're going to work our internal rotation first. We keep the knees pinned together. We're going to twist that top right leg internally towards our left leg. Now, if you've had a hip replacement, stay away from the internal rotation. I only want you to go into external. This is external rotation. We're twisting out. For the internal rotation, I'm going to pin the knees, twist the leg in, bring that right foot up towards the ceiling, keeping the knees pinned together. So you're feeling the thigh twist in the hip, and then the foot lowers as the leg unwinds. And we twist. One more, and then we'll switch to that external rotation, moving the opposite way. So instead of pinning the knees for the external, we pin the feet and the ankle, and that right knee twists up. As we're twisting up, we need to keep the hips stacked. Don't let the hip roll back or the spine twist. 3, 2, and 1. We're going to switch over to that right side. Bottom right leg is bent. Head is resting on the right arm, and we're going to straighten that left leg out. Left hand is right here in front of the chest, and left leg lifts up on that exhale, and inhale as it lowers. Lengthening and stretching that leg out of the hip. Left shoulder stays pinned down the back so it doesn't travel and sneak up near the neck and the ear. And left leg stacks. Knee to knee, legs are stacked nicely. We're going to bring that right arm to the front nice and straight. Left hand comes over top, palm to palm. Drop your head down to the mat. The left arm comes up, and we twist only through the chest, through the shoulders to rotate back. Legs stay stacked and pinned with one another. One more breath. And we unwind. Left hand comes behind the head, elbow bent, and we twist back through the chest, back through the mid-ribs. Letting the elbow fall towards the floor, letting the shoulder blade, that left shoulder blade, fall back for the floor. And slow to unwind. Straightening that left arm once again, we're palm to palm, and left arm reaches up. We're twisting back. One more breath. And slow to unwind. Head is resting back on that right arm. Your left hand is down on the mat by the chest. We straighten the top left leg. In for flexion and extension, we kick the left leg forward, hinging at the hip, and then point the toe. Reach and extend the leg back, keeping that movement of the leg solely in the hip, without that movement traveling into the low back. One more. And we'll bend the knees, stack the legs, bring the heels back in line with the tailbone. We start with the internal rotation. If you need to avoid the internal rotation, you're just going to do those reverse clamshells, that external rotation. For the internal, we pin the knees together, lock them into place, and then we twist the leg in the hip so the foot rises up towards the ceiling and back. As the leg is twisting, the hip is not shifting forward. One more. And we move into our external rotation. We twist the leg up and slow to lower. hips and shoulders stay stacked, using the muscles in your back and your abdominals to brace and hold that nice strong spinal position. 2 more. Flipping over face down, finishing off with back extension before we move into our rest. We reach the arms nice and long and we inhale to lift. Head, neck, and chest, keeping the neck nice and long and slow to lower. Inhale, chest lifts, legs are straight, strong out the back, squeezing through the glutes. Feeling the rib cage pull together as you use your abs and your back to hold that stability in your low back. One more chest lift. Hands come by the chest, the toes curl under, we peel up, sit back. Arms are reaching nice and long overhead. Next exhale, we curl up and restack the spine. Sitting up nice and tall, nice and long. All right, guys. Awesome work today. Thank you so much.